if you were to think of a topic that is farthest from the center of calmness, I imagine most of you would say death, dying, the fear of death. But what if it didn't have to be that way? What if there was a way to lean farther into immortality? Good evening, good morning, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Center of Calmness. And today we are super blessed to have Dr. Shelley Astroff with us. And we've actually been interviewing several guests recently. Welcome. We've been interviewing several guests recently who have all been part of a project that Hamali Vora has been orchestrating and putting together, a compilation book, if you will, titled Sacred Death. So we are only going to be covering the biggest topic on everyone's mind in the world tonight. And instead of just acknowledging Hamali this time, we said, well, why don't we just invite her to join us? So welcome, Hamali, as well.
Well, thank you.
So it's been so great. We've interviewed several other wonderful guests, all of whom have brought tremendous wisdom and knowledge to the Center of Calmness. And what I've noticed is that folks that know a lot about death, they know even more about life. So I imagine that our topic will turn to subjects of life and living, even as we approach the moment of death for just a moment in a very sacred manner, which I'm so excited. And although Hamali, I have to admit that your book scared me at first. I thought, okay, I'm going to read all this stuff about death, right? But it's just amazing, the group, and I just wanted to acknowledge and thank you for that, the group that you brought together to write about this very important topic.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, it scared a lot of people. Some people wanted me to change the death part and, can we say it differently? But that was the hope and wish that what we've seen last couple of years, or since 2020, and just wanted to talk a little openly about death. And all the topics that go with death and the fear of death that most of us have. And to show them that there's so much sacredness around that.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's become so clear the more chapters of the book that I read and the more folks I speak with about this topic, how much is involved, and there's a bit of although it like I said before, and like we were talking about, it's a bit scary, but there truly is a sacredness that you've done an excellent job illustrating.
Thank you.
Yeah, you as well as the authors with you. And with that, I would love to just introduce Shelley's topic. Of course, Shelley decided only just to write about immortality. Shelley, if I could ask, when you decided to join the project, how did you decide to take it from that particular angle?
Hamali is one of the more persuasive people that I know, and with her encouragement, I said that the only way that I really want to approach this topic is to know that it's your immortality, and you have to know what it is that dies and what it is that's immortal, because we always think of as if death and life are opposites to each other, but life is eternal. It's birth and death that are opposites. Birth is the beginning of the formed existence, and death is its finale. But life is forever. Life is that continuum on which we have our births and our deaths. But who we are is always there. And that's why I wrote chapter 9, and it's called Immortality is Your True Home, and Meditation on the Knower Can Get You There. And it's your true home. The knower is often referred to in many scriptures, especially in the Bhagavad Gita, as being your true home, who you really are. And so that was the way that I approached it, because I had these experiences when I was pretty young, growing up with my grandmother, and before she died, you can kind of sense when somebody's going, and I was very scared, and I would every night for the few nights before she passed, I would crawl into bed with her, and I'd just go like, I'm Bubby, I'm scared. And every night she said the same three things to me. She said, I'll always love you, I'll always look after you, and I'll never leave you. And then she said, even if you don't see me, you have to know this. And I believed her. Like, I didn't think she'd ever lie to me. And so I had to have an understanding of what that meant. And then I did. She wasn't religious, but she believed in God. So she always had me. She always encouraged me to pray, and she told me to repeat this prayer. And she said the prayer was Kriya Shema, but I only found out maybe many in my 20s that I had heard her wrong. I heard her say Krishna. So I would pray to Krishna. And I only found out about Krishna in my 20s. And lo and behold, Krishna is that deity in Indian scripture that reminds you of your immortality.
How about that? And as I understand from reading your chapter, you actually started, or your grandmother was prompting you toward some kind of a Hebrew tradition, right?
Yes.
Interesting. Interesting how it turns out. Yeah, and there's a lot of conversations we could have along some of the similarities of the different faiths and faith traditions that are out there. But that's not so much what we talk about here anyway. But what was it about your grandmother, and actually what you wrote about, as I read in your chapter, you wrote about your grandmother's passing and how that raised some of these questions, the deeper questions that needed to be answered, that kind of got you aligned, if you will, along the path of discovery. I wonder if you might kind of open that point up for us a little bit.
Sure. Well, my mother was pregnant at the time, and my grandmother is passing, and now I have to move back in with my family, which actually didn't feel at all like home in the way that it did with my grandmother. And so I would think about, like, I had to ponder about life. Like, does life become life only when a body is there?
Mm.
Because if she's going to still love me and her body's not there, then what's life? And, I was 11, so, I didn't really have a lot of people to talk to about this. And then I remember in high school, one of my teachers was talking about how matter has never been created and will never be destroyed. It only changes. And that again sparked, what is this eternal factor, this immortal factor, this thing that is always there? Because I knew that something about me was always there. Like, what was it that when I was just a little tot, that I have memories of being tiny. I have full understanding. Something inside me had not changed, but every cell in my body had been altered. There wasn't a cell in my body that was the same when I was 3 as is then. I didn't have the same interests. I didn't have the same thoughts in my head. So something didn't change and something did. So I was kind of wondering about what was that didn't change. And then when I was in my 20s, I started to meditate. And I met a teacher first just through a photograph. And just looking at the photograph, I could feel that same understanding or home feeling was there. And then I realized that was me. There was something some catalyst that was inspiring the me inside me. That's the home that everybody has. And like Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz would say, there's no place like home. And there really isn't. Because there's so many truths out there. It's not about different families, different religions, different upbringings. It's actually not at all about our differences, because that's kind of like the spice and masala to life. It's about what we are that's the same, that holds us together. And we can rejoice in the differences because, as Hamali knows, when you make an Indian dish, you just throw everything in. To the right proportions, and your palate just sings.
Plenty of spice, right? Absolutely. So, but could you expand on that just a little bit? Because I think there's a couple things that a lot of folks out there, particularly those listening now and perhaps later as well, might not quite catch, is that you're drawing a distinction between what changes and what is always the same. And then you're also drawing a distinction of something in you that doesn't change and something that you met in your guru that also didn't change in the sameness, right? I wonder if, of course, I just asked for 2 points. But would you be able to expand on both of them?
So, well, when I met him, especially then when I met him in person, that there's a space that was very powerful in him. It's kind of like a magnet, and the iron filings go to that magnet. Like we don't know what that magnetic power is, but because we can't see it, it doesn't mean that it's not there. So I couldn't see it, and people can't see it, but you know something is there. And there is an absolute methodology, you could say, on finding your true home. And the first, well, it does go with meditation, but it's meditation on your true home. It's like you can meditate. I did in when I did my master's, I meditated on good marks. And I got them. So you can meditate on that, and it's appropriate to meditate on what you need at every given moment. But when I met my guru, I started to meditate on the knower, on the true home, on that sense of immortality. And what happens is you have to see the distinction between what it is that changes and what it is that doesn't change. So you see that what changes is your body change, everything that comes to your senses, your surroundings change, the trees grow, your house changes, it gets a little older. Everything that is born, everything that has a beginning also has an end. Everything that's in time and space, all of that is tagged to a beginning and an end, because that is the law and the rule of time and space. And so there are four states of consciousness, and one is the waking state that we know, and it's ruled by time and space, and the mind is navigates through that. And we have the dream state, which is a shorter waking state. You can call waking state like a long dream. The dream state is a shorter state. A dream begins and a dream ends, but while the dream is happening, you believe everything to be real, but you only know that it was a dream when you wake up. Otherwise, while you're dreaming, it's really real, just like the waking state. And then the deep sleep state is the state where you're not dead. Life is still happening. However, if somebody were to call your name in deep sleep, you wouldn't hear it. If all the aches and pains and happiness that goes on in your daily waking state life, it's not happening there. So what isn't present in the deep sleep state is your mind. So in the way that you can wake up, when you wake up, in those three states navigate together. We sleep, we dream, we wake. We sleep, we dream, we wake. But we can also wake up as if from this waking state, because these states of consciousness are sitting on that which never changes. It's sitting on the fourth state of consciousness, which it's called the Turiya state, but we'll call it the knower state of consciousness. It's that state of immortality, of eternity, of joy. It is that state of pure existence. And all those other states have beginnings and ends, and they play on this eternal platform.
Wow.
And that was what I learned from my guru. And you can wake up to that state through meditation and through understanding and the knowledge that it exists.
Very cool. Yeah.
And then
makes sense. Makes
so what
sense.
what that state, when you tune into that, you infuse your waking state with that sense of joy and enlightenment, because that's why you do it. Because in order to know who you really are, you actually need the body, the mind, all of it. And then you just have a great ride.
I love how you put that. But if we could also just touch on the moment where you, and particularly the way you wrote about it in your chapter was, I thought, very, very impactful and powerful, where you mentioned that at the moment you met the guru that you studied with, this is before you learned all this stuff, right? Or at least before you learned some of it, but yet you felt the resonance of
Yes.
that which was within you, and also that which was within him. Right. I mean, how did that feel at the time? This is before you had all of this knowledge that you just shared with us in, less than 10 minutes, probably a lifetime of study here, right?
In my particular, like I've heard so many people, different things happened. In my particular case, I remember in front of the picture, and then I remember meeting him in person. With me, it was complete and utter silence. And I just had that biggest, like, I know this. Like Where has it been? I have been searching for this. And of course, the first feeling is always to say, I've been searching for you, which he would say, I'm your mirror. I'm the mirror of who you are. I have the form, but I'm reflecting you back to yourself.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. I gotcha. Wow.
And I lived
Okay.
in an aha moment for like over 40 years. I can believe.
That's totally awesome. Wow. And that's a perfect illustration too of this knower state that you're talking about, because as you mentioned, even if you're not aware of it, it was there the whole time. And
Yes.
that's what resonates or resonated between the two of you.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. That's awesome. All right. Well, Hamali has been waiting there patiently for a moment to put a word in. So I wanted to ask Hamali, when did you meet Shelley?
Last year, her and I both took intuitive writing course with Laura DeFranco. She's the publisher. Brave Heart, Brave Healer Production, and right away, I think I had this. How many? We started doing the Zoom online classes with all this shutdown, and I think this was prior to shutdown. So in January, she did an online course. But when Shelley said that she's from India or she lives in India, and I was like, that's it. I want to be where she is. And so I'm going, it's that instant, like I know her already kind of feeling, and that I want to connect with her and I want to know more about her. And we both wrote a chapter in that first book. And that's how we kind of, started talking and got closer. And so after knowing all that she teaches, I take Bhagavad Gita classes from her. And so how can she not write about immortality, right? And I was like, well, we talked about it, and there were many of them said, different things. Like, I don't want to tone down. Like you said, it's a scary topic about death.
Right.
And everybody wants to share their true story and what they believe. And that's exactly what I wanted in this book. And I was like, you don't have to. With her or one of the authors, she's like, but my chapter is about life. And I said, perfect. That's what I want. I wanted different perspective from everyone. We all, I believe that as many of as we are, like millions of people on this earth, that many perspective, that many ways of doing things and thinking things. And so same, and talking about different ancient cultures and their beliefs on death and celebrations, ceremonies, rituals. What do they think about death? So if I have, I absolutely wanted a perspective from Vedic culture, Hindu, from Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna teaches. That's what the whole Bhagavad Gita is about, right? The immortality and about life and death, or lack of it, right? There is no beginning and there is no end, right? If there's no beginning, there's no end. So, and that's why, we just heard Shelley talk about, what she teaches. So that's how profound this book is, and every chapter is. These amazing expert authors, they share so much that they've been teaching for a long time.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's just amazing, the different perspectives, and just digging into Shelley's perspective a little bit more. Actually, what I wanted to ask you, Hamali, is when you met Shelley, did you already know about the knower state of consciousness and all of this seemingly so simple truths, right? That we've been talking about here so far?
Well, I think the names or what we call is different, right? And so you can say Nora State as, your true self, or that, your consciousness, your true consciousness, or so I used to meditate, and I mean, I still do every day, but I do Reiki and more quantum healing and things like that. So um, I was already able to get to that level in terms of different realms and different understanding and things. But it just made it her way of teaching and her way of meditation and showing that it just made it so much simpler. And at the same time, the way she sings, the chants, the song, it's just when I was working, I could notice sometimes that, wait a minute, I'm not thinking, we think 60 to 80,000 thoughts a day.
Right.
And, constantly going this repeat stories in our head. And one time I'm working and I'm just delayed, patients, things are not working out, and I'm just patiently waiting. But I found myself, instead of saying, why isn't this working out? I just, in my head, Amaram hum, mother hum. It's like what she sang in her meditation. I was like, and all of a sudden I stopped and I said, wow, that peaceful, quiet mind where you're not thinking anything. It feels good when you're in that state, even in your daily work,
Especially in your daily work.
Yeah, absolutely. While things are going wrong around you, falling apart, you're like, okay, whatever it's meant to be.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's certainly easier to go with the flow when you're in stillness.
Yes. Yes.
Right. So, Shelley, if I could just go ahead and ask the important question of the night, what's your perspective on death?
When the body passes, and people refer to death in so many ways, but I just want to refer to it very specifically about when the body passes. I think that the rituals are very important. Whatever rituals that feel right to you, what your circumstances are, your religion, your whatever, I think they're very important, and I think they're very comforting. But for example, my mother passed this past winter of COVID, and I was able to attend her funeral in Montreal via Zoom. And Montreal at the end of December, it's cold.
Right.
And I was sitting in my room on the other side of the planet, watching the sacred burial of my mother, and it's very, very important to for her and for me. But what gave me comfort inside was the fact that I didn't think that the body, the bones and blood that were sitting in that coffin, as they were lowering it into that frozen earth, I knew that my mother didn't need a blanket. I knew that my mother, that my brothers, who are very dear to me, and my cousins and everybody who was there on Zoom or present there, they were not being mean by putting her body underground in a box. Because what was being buried was the representation of that lifetime, of that birth and death. And that needed to be honored. But who she was not that. Who she was somewhere that was going to always be. And such great comfort was there, because should she choose to come back and try again in another form, that who she was would always be. It's the form. It's like you take your car from, here to there. But when you get there, you get out of the car. You don't just stay in there. And we get out of our cars. But who is it that's getting out of the car? That's where we have to go. But it's very, very, very important to honor the vehicle as well.
That's such a complete approach, right? To consider all of it, right? Honoring the tradition, but yet acknowledging the truth of what's actually happening at the same time.
Yes, because it's only with your vehicle that you can know who you are, because in order to see yourself, you need a mirror, you need a reflection. And the reflection is taking on the form so that you can see other, knowing that what you're seeing is actually also you. Did I go too far?
No, that's profound. No, yeah, actually,
amazing.
let's go as far as we can, right? This is truth that, at least from my point of view, is very difficult to obtain. So it's so special that both of you are here with me on the show tonight, and sharing at this level, right? So yeah, it's no holds barred here, right? as far as we want to take this.
I just want to say one more thing, and it's about Himali, that when we were in that class with Laura DeFranco in that intuitive writing class, she came on screen, and I looked at her and I went, oh, I know her.
So I guess it was mutual.
Not only did I know her, but I loved her.
At first meeting, that's awesome.
And we hadn't spoken yet. She was one of the squares on the screen.
Yeah.
On Zoom as well.
Yeah.
How about that? Yeah. How about that? That is awesome. Isn't it interesting how those connections are just so naturally made, right? Like that. It's we know who we resonate with before we ever met them.
So then what's that? What's that? I wasn't even meeting the form.
Right. Yeah.
We were just light figures on a screen.
Yeah, very, very little to interact with. Absolutely. Yeah. Something beyond, as you've been discussing. So Shelley, I wonder if we could take this from two different angles, really to illustrate something that I think is a very deep, I don't want to say concept, because it's not a concept or a principle, a deep reality of the knower, right? Can we take it from the perspective of, and I think a lot of the writers in Himali's Sacred Death book take it from this perspective, from the perspective of the caregiver, of the perspective of the family member, those who are attending the passing of someone, either actively or even just standing beside as that individual is going through the transition. How does their connection and integration with the knower help support being in that position as someone close to them is passing on?
I would say it's probably the most important, crucial, essential thing for the caregiver to know that who they are, if they help them, if the kindness is there, if the encouragement of knowing the information from the caregiver with the information to the one who needs it. So when the caregiver, who has more energy in the physical form than the one who is on its journey, can keep reminding them that it's only the body that this is happening to. And if you can remind them, I mean, I would say you say, Amaram Ham Madaram Ham, which is who you are is immortal. Who you really are is blissful and forever. You are pure, free forever. If the caregiver can know that and keep reminding the one who's ready to step on the next journey, if it can make it easier for everyone, because the inevitable is inevitable. But it doesn't have to be scary, and we can't change it. So, but we can make it as pleasant and rejoicing in that as we can. Because in so many ways, the sadness is there that, you won't sit and have your sandwiches together. You won't sit and have popcorn by the TV anymore. Like, that will end. However, who they are and who you are will not. And go there. And then it's that ease and comfort, because we don't need to invite sorrow and pain. That comes uninvited. But if we can keep inviting that joy, that sense of immortality, that sense of what is eternal in each one of us, if we bring that in, then we can honor the knower, the sense of self in everyone, and be very respectful of what's happening, and move on in that way. And I'm saying move on because we're moving on only in time and space, because the knower doesn't move on. The knower is just always there. And if the caregiver can know that and give that care to the one who is experiencing the passage of their body, it can be done in such a beautiful way.
That is such a powerful position, because especially as you concluded that comment, really the caregiver and the family member are not changing with the passing of this other, the loved one, or the person who they're charged with caring for. They are still complete and full and able to deliver fully throughout the process, and even not losing anything after it's complete.
Yeah.
Outstanding. Yeah. All right, perhaps a little bit harder, the next perspective, the person who's actually passing. How does their integration with the knower help that process for them, and perhaps change their perspective on what that process is?
Okay. So you don't integrate with the knower. You actually integrate with the body.
Okay.
Because it's always there. It's always who you are. So the sense of time and space, what's happening is the sense of time and space is you're withdrawing from it. So you're being absorbed, even though you're always that, but your attention is going to that understanding, because it is now becoming more what you're dealing with than, going shopping at the supermarket.
Yes, that's true.
So you're very alert to that, and it's said that that because you have an individual soul that is part of the whole soul, so they call it the Atma, which would be the knower of all. And then each individual is called the Jiv Atma, the individual soul or knower. And that individual, like, will keep carrying with it that which it had before. So I use the example in the book, in one of my tools, of a cup in India you can get tea with in these earthenware cups. So you drink from the cup, and then when you're finished, you put it back, you throw it back into the clay. So it smashes into the clay, and then the potter, he reaches into it and he reforms a cup. Now, and then you put, it becomes a cup, and it's used for drinking chai. And so it has its lifespan. You drink from it, and then it's going back into the pile. But every cup that goes back into the pile has carried with it a little bit of sugar, a little bit of milk, a little bit of tea, and that mixture. So you keep having that in the next lifetime of the next cup. It's carrying with it the fragrance of the life before. So that's what you might have déjà vu. You might call it what you like, but those memories are from before. And you keep coming back until you come to know that you are all the cups. Every cup is made of the same earth. Some have a little more sweet, some have a little more milk, some have a little more spice, but they're all the same earth, because without the earth, you couldn't make the cup. So it's the same thing with the human body, just to simplify it like that. So it's almost as if we're playing this divine game to know our own divinity. And we keep reforming in the cup and refining who we are and knowing who we are, until that living this life in the body, knowing who you are, is the best that you can, because whoever you come in contact with, as I knew my guru was, everyone radiates when they come near. And I mean, who doesn't want to be happy and know who you are?
I think fundamentally, all right.
Yes.
And
we all do, because we know that's who we already are.
Right. And I imagine that knowing that, or becoming, I would just say, realizing produces quite a bit of comfort as one might reach the end of life, as it were, at least at the end of end of life in the body, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
And generating a much stronger sense of calmness throughout.
I want to thank you so much for this, but I especially want to thank Himali for taking on. I mean, Himali, she just takes things on like head on. And she created a discussion for talking about something. And I love the idea of the book part, for talking about something that can be very scary. And so many people wrote about it in so many ways. But what she's also doing is continuing the conversation, because you have to know her. She has like mad skills. And she's amazing. And she has created a whole community. She's very modest, but she's created a whole community around her book and around her mad skills and who she is. She's really someone to know. I feel honored knowing her, as I do knowing you, DK.
Thanks so much, Shelley. Yeah, and I'm honored to know Himali as well, and so glad, Himali, that you took time out of your very late evening to join us after all the evening's activities. Himali, I wanted to ask, before perhaps we open it up just for a general conversation, how does Shelley's perspective fit into the other perspectives of the other 20 some authors that are in Sacred Death. Did you find through this project that there's a big picture emerged where there were commonalities between all of these different approaches?
Absolutely, there is common, everyone talked about how death changed their life, or death of a loved one changed their life. Everyone was very vulnerable, talking about their experiences and how it is. I think the way the book kind of weaves in and out different perspective, but they kind of bring in about self-care, self-love, this radical self-care, because we are talking about caregivers. And when we talk about caregivers, healthcare workers, healers, we give so much of ourselves to the point of exhaustion, overwhelm. And so Shelley's work, it talks about meditation, different perspective. And so even like she said, even a caregiver can use these meditation. You can use this meditation or chanting, singing with the loved one that is transitioning soon. Or it could help you after the fact, because the grief is immense. And so I wanted to show there's not one way of doing things. There's not one way of thinking. There's so many, and grief doesn't have to start at certain point, doesn't have to end at certain point. Nothing is wrong or right. It's whatever you can connect, or whoever you can connect with. And these authors are so generous that they've offered the tool, they've offered resources on their websites and pages. And we have a Facebook community where people can come and continue this conversation, ask questions, connect with all the authors. And, and another author and myself, we've also started a Death Cafe. What it is a online virtual, same thing, conversation. You talk about death and dying. It's not about counseling, but just coming and talking about death. What are your fears? How is it? How are you doing? And you're not, and it also shows, I think these stories also show that you're not alone. We all are connected, right? We are in this form on this planet, and we are going to exit this planet at a certain time. We might come back in different form or again, but at this point of time, and especially with what's going on, to live life without fear, regrets, guilt, all these emotions and what it does. And you hold on so tight, the attachments and everything. It's so hard for a person to transition, or the person that is on the caregiver side to let go. What are they going to do with their time after? So
absolutely, some very weighty topics. Perfect for your cafe, right?
Yes, absolutely.
As you put it, I have to admit, my spine is shivering just a little bit with the title of Death Cafe. But I mean,
it's all over,
But isn't that what it is, right? Is we have to be honest about this, right?
Absolutely.
And what it is.
Because it's part of life, right?
Yeah.
The minute we, take birth, or even, in our mother's womb, we are this tiny cell, and we get on this path of, so to speak, death, that end. It could be while you're in the womb. It could be right after your birth. It could be in youth. I mean, we just don't know, right?
Right.
Whatever your purpose is or intention is, you come and you serve that, and then you're gone.
When your time here is done.
Exactly. And so why not live your life to the fullest? Why not use that, know your knower, right? Get to that self-realization. And that's where, some of the authors have written about signs and connections, and with our loved ones that are transitioned. And we get these all the time. Some people have talked about soul to soul talk or conversation. How do you do that? So it's different topics, and boldly and openly, we have talked about anything that surrounds that topic of death. And sometimes death could be of relationships, death could be of your former self.
Absolutely. Yeah. Especially when participating in meditation like this, right?
Right? Yes,
It
yes,
tends to have an effect on you.
absolutely. You are born, you can be, you're born, like it could be every moment if you choose to, if you're more expanding. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Shelley, if I might invite you to comment on I believe you left a part of your life behind as you went to follow this guru that you spoke of.
I did and I didn't. It's really an interesting thing because just because I moved my body somewhere to study something I wanted to, I who I was didn't change. And there was a little upset on the other side as I chose to go from one type of career to another. But in the end, I remember before my father passed, his last words to me were, "I want you to know that I am so proud of you, and I am proud of what you're doing." And it was like he was saying, "I know." It was right at the end, and it was on the phone, and he just said, "I know." And my mom, she was before she left, I would spend a lot of time with her, and when I would go to Montreal, and she started to have a great interest in what I was doing because that was where her comfort was. So that's what she wanted to talk about, because she didn't want to talk about the fact that she was like in her middle 90s and nothing was working anymore. And she said to me, I still feel like I did when I was 17. I just can't do those things. But inside, what is that? And what is that indeed? It's because who you are doesn't change. And to give that comfort to knowing that what she was feeling and experiencing was correct. And if you can focus on what doesn't change, that's where she was happiest. And that's what caregivers can do. Because I felt like I left nothing behind. I felt like I have filled whatever I am and whatever I was and will be with that sense of immortality, eternity, and life and bliss. I feel that's what I meant to do, to leave absolutely nothing behind, but to fill every moment with that true nature of love, life, happiness, joy, because that's who we really are.
I love how you put that, right? Because isn't it so that everybody that we come into contact with would only wish to have a fulfilled life in the end, right? And you just described what that is. And that fulfillment that you found actually covered both the past as well as the future, as well as the present all at once.
Right. Because fulfillment, I used to think that fulfillment was doing really well in school. Fulfillment was getting the job that I wanted. Fulfillment was having a desire and having that desire fulfilled. To me, that was fulfillment. But when you adjust and think that I can try hard and do all the things to get the better mark. I can apply for the job and hope to get it. But whatever happens, to know that who I am is already fulfilled, then I'm pouring that fulfillment into the outside. I'm coming from the inside, from knowing that fulfillment won't happen with things that change, because I can get the job, but the job will end one day. I can have the relationship, but that'll end one day. I can buy the new computer, but it's going to die one day. But what is it that will be fulfilling me forever? And then all those other things can come and I can enjoy them even more, because I know that fulfillment is coming from the knower. It's coming from the inside. It's coming from my home and going outward, not the other way around.
Such a key. I meet
Yeah.
so many folks that have it backwards, and I did as well for many years, for decades, right?
But
Seeking fulfillment from without, right?
Yes, but that's the human design.
Yeah.
When you're born, you learn from the outside, and then but you're learning from the outside, but you're also still, your mind isn't there yet. And as your mind comes, so anyway, sorry I interrupted.
I was prompting a response, so that's good. Perfect.
You're very kind.
Thanks so much. We're getting really deep here. This is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And this will become, as usual, one of the great Center of Calmness episodes here. So Hamali has talked about her Death Cafe as the next and the continuing of the sacred death saga, if you will. Now, what other mad skills are you continuing to leverage, Hamali, as we move forward?
Eventually, by end of this year, I am developing a program for just called Sacred Death Workshop, where people can come and just learn, maybe write your own obituary. So getting more comfortable with death, to learn how can you be on your purpose and your intention wherever we are. Every state, like say if you're in the United States, every state has its own regulations and its own laws about different I'm sorry, I know you're like burials, funerals, things like that, right? And so talking about what are some of the new things, the green burials, there is open pyre. There is so many things that are coming up, biodegrading the body or donating your body. There's so many regulations around that. Preparing is so important, preparing for death whenever, so writing a will, advance directive, making sure that someone, and you can do it at any stage. You don't have to be at your end stage. Working on your legacy work. I love doing legacy projects. And because for me, that's what it's brought me to where I am. So finding my purpose and my intention. So working on that. So yeah.
That's huge, particularly the legacy element.
Yes.
And then, I mean, as well as all this preparatory stuff, right? Just getting folks more comfortable with that. So there's just simply no worry, no concern.
Right. And legacy work doesn't have to be this, people think that it has to be this huge grand thing or organization that you create. Your legacy could be as simple as smiling or giving people hugs or, talking to young people or just in small capacity. It's okay. That's your legacy. People are going to remember you for that.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's the key, right? Leave something, leave the world in a slightly better condition as how you came to it, right?
Exactly, or even just being, I've been in spaces and places where someone's energy is so amazing. And just even without a conversation, you're sitting with them and you just feel in that peace and calm and groundness and balance. And that's their legacy. When they're in that peace and calm state, everything around them is in that state.
Absolutely.
And it makes you so comfortable and so good inside and happy that, so that could be your legacy.
And
So,
that, as you put, that would be enough.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or just being you is enough.
Yeah.
You know, every one of us have so much. I mean, we're just love and light. It's our experiences that teaches us whatever, but every moment you have the choice to take responsibility and to turn around whatever it is. We all have good, bad, and ugly. Yeah. And so how do you go and just love yourself, take care of yourself? When you start doing that, you start being that outside. So when what you are inside, that's what you can give outside.
Absolutely. As Shelley mentioned, from within.
Absolutely. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Shelley, if I could ask the same question of you, what does the future hold? What are your plans, and what are you working on to move forward with?
Well, my favorite all-time scriptures, not to leave others out, but my favorite one is the Bhagavad Gita, because for me it has been more like a friend. Any time I needed comfort, I could actually just open the book and some verse would be there to remind me of that, who I am, but these things change. A sad moment comes and the sad moment will change. You don't need it when the joy comes. You just enjoy it. But it's when a challenging moment comes, that's when you need it the most. So I love teaching anything to do with the Bhagavad Gita verses, because the verses are, every verse is a mantra, it's a gem that you can repeat, and just the sound of it will open that space in you to that sense of eternity, that like it opens you to your true home. And so I love doing classes on that. And I also teach meditation, both private, and I have what I call designer classes, where people can bring their own friends, and then we do what they want. If they want to focus on a particular topic, like on Maya, on the sense of illusion, or on meditation in a particular way. And I do that. And I also am doing video classes on Skillshare.
Interesting.
So, yeah. And I have a little YouTube channel. I mean, I have a Facebook page called Knower Meditation, and I have a Facebook group called Knower Meditation Group, where I post things. But my YouTube channel, we've developed mini meditations. It's for people who have the least amount of time at their disposal.
Right. Which is becoming progressively more and more people out there these days, right?
That's when you need to meditate 2-3 times.
Right. The faster life's going, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's actually the point. Rather than sitting for long periods of time, if that time isn't at your disposal, but you can close your eyes for 7 minutes and connect, that 7 minutes will give that energy to you in the most profound way. And you just have to do it. You can find time a couple of times a day. You park your car, turn off the engine, and just wait. you go to the bathroom, take an extra minute.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, if you're needing to look for it.
And some days in my life, that's how it works. You almost have to build in little 5-minute blocks of meditation time. Otherwise, the life just takes it, right? Or if you allow it to, life can take every moment of the day, right? But if you guard that time or find ways to build it into other things, it gets a lot more convenient.
Yeah, I remember my guru said he had a wife and 5 children. And he said when they were young, sometimes if he really needed to meditate and, he would get on a bus.
We think of meditation being on the top of the mountain, right? Not on the bus.
He'd go there and he'd come back.
Okay, perfect. Then you're stuck, right? You know where you can go.
Hum.
Right. Nice. That is awesome. So just, I mean, y'all have shared such wisdom. Shelley, with your description of truly what is becoming a very clear description of immortality. That was amazing how easy that is to receive. The way you're describing it, so huge, right? And I would invite folks to lean more into what you're teaching, as well as Himali, the comments that you offered. I wonder if we could get some contact information for both of you, so folks can reach out if they have further interest. Maybe starting with Shelley. Yeah, how would folks reach out for you?
Okay, I have a website. It's knower, KNOWER.ca. And I have, I'm on Facebook and Instagram, Knower Meditation, or on also Knower Meditation Group on Facebook, and our YouTube channel. And if you want to write to me on the website, there's a contact me, but you can also just write an email to Shelley, SHELLEY, at knower.ca, and I'll get your mail. Awesome. And I love to hear from anybody, and I'll write you back.
Awesome. Thanks so much for that. And Himali, how might folks reach out to you?
You can email me. My email address is himalivora1 as number at gmail.com. And it's HEMALIVORA1 at gmail.com, or Facebook. It's facebook.com/Coach Himali. And on Instagram, it's _Himali. It's 11. Oh, it's 11:11. I'm sorry, people. I'm so tired. But _happy, _healthy, and _you as letter U. Or you can reach me on my website, himalivora.com.
Awesome. Well, Himali, again, thanks so much for being here with us at 11:11. I'm going to say in the evening just to make it feel better.
That's right. Thank you.
And Shelley, for you as well, to join us all the way from the Himalayan mountains in the Valley of the Gods, as it were, right? At what started at being 7:30 in the morning. Now it's a little bit more sane of a time now at 8:40, 8:42. So, thanks to both of you for joining us for yet another outstanding session where, I mean, it seems it's so cool that each one of these episodes really become a bit of a masterclass in the topic that we discuss, and covering knower meditation and immortality, and how that all really ties into the not the concept, but the reality of sacred death. So important for especially for today. And I invite everyone out there to also grab a copy of the book Sacred Death, and read for yourself the truths that are within from many different perspectives. So Shelley, Himali, thanks so much again for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And it happened like this only because of who you are, because you're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. And I'm sure I'll be seeing both of you very soon. And until then, and for the Center of Calmness, I'm DK Warner.
Right.